This is the true story behind Inglorious Basterds. Jewish Americans who were refugees of Nazi Germany that go back behind the lines for vengeance.
We were dedicated to killing Nazis and doing it behind enemy lines. That's what we were trained for, and that's what we volunteered for.
The lieutenant, he said, the only thing you have to know is have a gun in your hand and aim it at a German and do this. That's all the training I'm going to give you.
They kept beating me more and more. He knocked out all my back teeth.
This is almost like a suicide mission. It's a situation where the truth is way stranger than fiction.
War has been raging in Europe for 4 years. U.S. forces have been engaged for a year and a half. All along, America has been waging a secret war. The OSS has been training commandos to parachute behind enemy lines. One of the most successful of these missions was Operation Greenup.
Operation Greenup was made up of several men that were refugees from Nazi Germany that were Jewish. They did the amazing thing of going back to strike back at Nazi Germany, probably the most hostile police state in history. The team was led by Fred Mayer. Fred Mayer was daring and audacious, willing to roll the dice on his life to accomplish the mission.
It felt like I had my chance to do what I set out to do, to kill Nazis. That's why all the Jewish boys joined.
Hans Wijnberg, the radio operator, was the lifeline of the mission. Because a team behind the lines in Nazi Germany without a radio is absolutely dead.
I was 15, 16 when Munich and Czechoslovakia and Austria were overrun. When Hitler came, the Germans who fled Germany came through our town. We were very much aware of it, the evil of fascism.
Deutschland heil! It started right away in 1933 when Hitler took power. The flags were the handwriting on the wall. All the public buildings, swastikas. That was the end of democracy.
Fred Meyer was a Jewish teenager living in Hitler's Germany. His father was a patriot who fought in the First World War.
My father kept insisting, oh, I'm a war veteran and all that, nothing is gonna happen to us. My mother said, well, as Jews, there'll be no preference. And she was right.
But my father was active in the anti-Nazi party here. Jews were fleeing Germany. So my father was completely up to date and he apparently didn't trust it.
Hans's father decided to send him to America with his twin brother. A business associate agreed to take over guardianship of the young twins.
My father sent $3,600 to the United States, probably a year's income, an enormous amount of money. Whole family said to my father, Leo, how can you be such a nut to send 16-year-olds to the land of cowboys and Indians? The whole family was against it, except my mother.
Hans and his twin brother left behind their parents, younger brother, and extended family in Holland. They would never see them again.
I will never know all the details. I believe they tried to flee to Switzerland, and they were either betrayed or caught at the border. And my father was sent to a concentration camp in Poland, and my mother and my brother, who was at that 16, 17, were gassed in Auschwitz.
Fred was one of the lucky ones. He managed to escape to America with his immediate family.
We were able to come to the United States just in time. From then on, until the war ended, Germany was my enemy. And I had no scruples doing my utmost to destroy them. December 7th, 1941, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. The next day, I was in line for the recruiting station. I had a good combination, hatred and love. Hatred for the Nazis and love for America.
Like Fred, Hans was ready to fight as soon as he was of legal age.
One day, before my 21st birthday, I became an American citizen. And then I was in the army.
Fred and Hans quickly found out that army life wasn't what they'd expected.
The sergeant picked me, you, KP. It wasn't interesting enough just to be another number. That wasn't for me.
The Army identified Fred and Hans as recruits with special talents. They had language skills, knew the culture behind enemy lines, and most importantly, they were motivated to take on high-risk missions.
Somebody from Washington came up to me. I hear that you speak Dutch. I said, yeah. Do you want to liberate your country? I said, yeah. All right, if you sign here, you can go and join the OSS. I'd never heard of the OSS.
Guerrilla, saboteur, commando. Americans are becoming increasingly aware of the importance of these names in the news of World War II.
The U.S. didn't really have, until late 30s, did not have anything in a way of an intelligence organization. And we had a Secretary of War, Henry Stimson, who said, gentlemen, don't read other people's mail. And so you can imagine where the OSS started, with nothing.
The OSS commandeered the Congressional Country Club to train recruits.
This was the General Tent area, as I remember it. That's where we did our demolition exercises. And we blew up some of the good trees.
These were the Dirty Dozen of the day. A motley crew of men from all walks of life. German refugees, a Luftwaffe pilot, a butcher. One guy said it perfectly. This is the craziest group of men I've ever been with. And they also shared a common passion of striking back at Nazi Germany.
They took us to train us in small arms. The lieutenant, he got us up in the morning. He said, the only thing you have to know is this. That is to have a gun in your hand and aim it at a German and do this. That's all the training I'm going to give you.
But there was more training, almost a year of it, covering all the basics of guerrilla warfare.
Knife fighting,
Hand-to-hand combat,
underwater demolition,
Morse code,
parachute school,
how to use a pistol,
working with explosives,
night training,
how to own locks.
very scary movies about venereal diseases.
Never anything about intelligence. That was strictly disruption of the enemy. And we put our hearts into it. They told us that slim chance of survival, would you still be willing to do it? None of us pulled out.
Fred and Hans bonded through the training sessions. They connected, almost like family.
I felt like he was my little brother. I kind of felt he needed somebody to protect him. He was so young looking. So I became his big brother. He was almost a head taller than I was, but still his face, if you looked at him, he was just a young boy.
Yeah, like a brother. Yeah, he always impressed me. Strong personality, knew what he wanted. Bossy. That's why he got divorced so soon.
Dino Lowenstein, a commanding officer in the OSS, recalls the two men.
Freddie was sort of a, well, I shouldn't call him a ruffian, that's not really fair, but he was willing to, to play the thing rough. He would have killed somebody else if he had to, and this sort of thing. Hans had this purity of soul, and he was motivated, but he would have liked to do it with a minimum of nasty things to other people.
D-Day, June 6, 1944. Allied forces launched the largest invasion in history against the Germans in Normandy. Every available body is tapped into action. But Fred and Hans find themselves in military limbo. They're stationed to North Africa, far from any action.
You have this high-speed commando unit that has been training for months. They're going to do this specialized mission behind the lines of Nazi Germany, and they get into North Africa, and nobody knows who they are. It's suddenly they're lost in this bureaucratic shuffle, because nobody knew who they were. It was the OSS, it was a secret organization.
Freddie and I said, we're never going to see any action. War is almost over. So then Freddie says, well, we're going to take this. We're going to go to the higher officer.
That's when I decided that's enough. I'm going to headquarters and ask for a transfer to intelligence.
Fred and Hans are transferred to intelligence headquarters in Bari, Italy, the staging ground for all covert operations in Southern Europe. Ready for action, Fred comes up with a plan.
Well, he explained this plan that they wanted to be dropped with arms on top of Dachau, and they were going to distribute the arms to the inmates, and they were going to start a revolution that way. And my reaction was very negative. He might as well drop out the window, which would be, in the long run, more economical and more practical.
Instead, the team is sent into the Austrian state of Tyrol on a near-suicidal mission, codenamed Operation Greenup.
Operation Greenup had two key goals. One was to monitor the rail traffic in the Brenner Pass, the main supply route from Nazi Germany into Italy. It had been bombed relentlessly by the Air Corps, but nothing was stopping the flow of rail traffic.
The Brenner Pass runs through Tyrol, a German stronghold governed by Franz Hofer. Hofer, an extremist, joined the Nazi Party years before Hitler's triumphant annexation of Austria.
And the other key goal was to identify and find out what was going on in the Alpine Redoubt.
It is rumored Hofer is building an impenetrable fortress in the Tyrolean Alps. Here, Nazi zealots will rally and make their last stand. Hofer's dream threatens to prolong the war for months, maybe even years.
Franz Hofer is a die-hard Nazi, a fanatic, and he's power-hungry too, because he wants to bring the Alpine Redoubt to the area that he has power over. He saw it as a chance to save the Third Reich. So the team was sent in to find out what was really going on.
This is dangerous territory to infiltrate. Operation Greenup will need a third man, an insider from Tyrol.
Freddie and I went to German prison camps to find the third man, mainly a German or Austrian prisoner of war who had spent all these years in Hitler territory. And among this list, there was a Lieutenant Weber.
Franz Weber is a Wehrmacht officer from Tyrol who deserted from the German army out of conscience.
Well, I liked him right away. He was trustworthy.
Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate?
Well, I liked him right away. He was trustworthy.
Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did the OSS think that you would cooperate? Why did weil ich im Gefangenenlager mit den englischen Offizieren diesbezüglich gesprochen habe. Ich habe mir der eigentliche Grund, ich war längst überzeugt, dass es ein Unglück ist, wenn Deutschland diesen Krieg gewinnen würde.
Franz was a very interesting individual. He did not like the approaches the Germans used. He saw what they were doing and capable of doing. So many of the Germans had no idea what was going on. Well, Franz was not the type. He knew what was going on.
Somehow we got along immediately very well. We come from completely different backgrounds. Franz was a fairly devout Catholic. Freddie and I were, of course, Jews. And still we had absolutely no trouble trusting one another completely. Total trust.
The plan is perilous and near impossible. In order to enter the region undetected, the team will fly over the Alps and parachute onto a glacier, then make their way to Oberperfus, Franz's home village. This will be their base for forays into Innsbruck, the capital of Tyrol and a major rail center in the region. It is the seat of power for Governor Franz Hofer.
I drove them to the airport.
What was the mood in this vehicle as you were going out there?
We had all discussed at great length the perils. Freddie was so sure that it would all work according to plan, and I think the other two trusted him. I had total confidence in the team. If they couldn't do, nobody could do it. There was nothing in the world that could go wrong with the team except through bad luck.
Operation Greenup is deemed so dangerous that the Royal Air Force refuses to fly it. A young American pilot, Lieutenant John Billings, volunteers for the job.
The Brenner Pass was heavily fortified. The Germans had brought anti-aircraft guns to the tops of the mountains surrounding the Brenner Pass, and it was just absolute suicide to try to go that way. We were not supposed to learn any information about the Joes. This is the only time that I ever even laid eyes on them, let alone speak to them. Doing the things that they were doing wasn't something that I would think that I could do even. I didn't think I could hold it together to go stealthing around in enemy territory in plain sight. We would try to stay as low as physically possible and in between mountains as much as we could so that radar wouldn't see us. We got into trouble. We got into a downdraft so severe in the Alps that it took us down 6,000 feet in 20 seconds. Forced down by high winds. You were going down faster than you would have gone if you just jumped out of the airplane.
Keep your head down!
And then near the bottom of the gully, probably because the wind vanes were leveling out at the bottom, we stopped descent.
Franz had never jumped out of a plane before. I told him, especially on the glacier, there was no problem. Just sinking a little deeper, that's all.
All right, keep your head down! Go! Go! Go!
We landed at 10,000 feet, so you can imagine how high we were and how cold it is up there in the middle of the winter.
We found one another immediately. We didn't jump far apart. And then we realized when we got together, we had no skis.
I couldn't see the canister that held the skis. They must have gone on the other side of the mountain peak. The snow was deep, and we kept sinking in. The air was thin. You had to stop in between to take your breath. At one time, Hans was ready to sack out, and we had to keep him going. There it becomes a matter of life or death. You either go or you freeze.
Eventually, the team arrives at a mountainside hamlet. They claim to be an alpine ski unit that's gotten lost. One of the villagers loans them a sled.
Picture going off a sheer cliff that's all ice with no brakes on a sled and then hoping you make it. And that's exactly what that was like.
The mountain was so scary and steep. My ski poles, the tips turned red from trying to slow the thing down. It was the scariest ride of my life, but we made it.
The team had dropped in blindly. There was no reception party, but Franz knew the lay of the land. He knew the people there. He had the family members. He had the safe houses, which was critical to the success of the mission.
When they arrive in Oberperfus, Franz makes contact with his fiancée, Annie. Her immediate reaction is terror. His desertion has become public knowledge, and she is afraid for his life. Annie can think of only one person who can help the team, her mother, Mama Niederkircher.
She was, if not the leader of the community, the hidden leader of the community. And she was very anti-Nazi. She immediately hugged me and welcomed me. She was just so happy to see that somebody else will fight the Nazis.
Mama Niederkircher takes Hans to the attic of a sympathetic farmer. Hans taps out his first transmission to the OSS headquarters in Bari, Italy.
It worked. The signal that we sent, it bounced around over the Alps to Bari, Italy. Unbelievable.
Mama Niederkircher takes a great risk in welcoming the team. The threat of being caught is only too real.
The Germans had inserted their own agents that claimed that they were Allied parachutists. And they went around and they wanted to see who would provide them aid. And then those people were rounded up, in some cases never seen again. So it was an extremely dangerous and hazardous environment that the Greenup team had gone into.
Only at night was I allowed to go to the bathroom. It's tricky. They were so scared, deadly scared, that they would be discovered.
Mama Niederkircher assumes responsibility for Franz's safety. She hides him in a room at the hotel she owns.
Meine Aufgabe war hauptsächlich, die Kontakte herzustellen. Das ist ja auch ziemlich gut gelungen. Die Beauftragte oder die Order war für mich ja hauptsächlich, die Kontakte herzustellen und sonst möglichst nicht sehr stark in die Öffentlichkeit zu treten, mit möglichst, also weil ja die Gefahr außerordentlich groß war.
Franz has 3 sisters who share his anti-Nazi views. They will each play a key role in Operation Greenup. They live in Innsbruck and are keenly aware of the risks they will take. The city is tightly controlled by Hofer and the Gestapo. One of the sisters, Louisa, creates the perfect cover for Fred. She is a nurse at a hospital and manages to steal a uniform from a dead officer. Fred is now a convalescing German officer in Innsbruck, on leave from the front.
I was able to check in the local barracks and our officers' quarters, so I can come and go freely.
Fred's story is that he's wounded in action, and he presents outpatient documents forged by Louisa to support his claim.
So he issued me a pay card so I could draw rations and money. I had to live somewhere. I had confidence that I could handle it. I never questioned what unit I came from. All I knew is that I was a wounded officer, and that was enough.
Was zum Teufel ist mit dir denn passiert?
The Officers Club was this sort of watering hole, and people talked. They talked about secrets, some of the great secrets of the war, right in front of this Jewish guy from Brooklyn in a German officer's uniform.
To get these secrets to Hans and the OSS, Fred works with Franz's youngest sister, Eva. They create a secure courier system of young women who travel back and forth between Innsbruck and Oberperfus.
I've never met them. They gave them to the farmer, and then the farmer saw that it was safe, he passed it on to me. That system, they worked that out within a few days, was excellent.
The messages begin to flow, filled with critical intelligence, border activity, training exercises, troop movement, train schedules, arms shipments, bomb construction. The desire for information is insatiable. And Fred has a special talent for getting people to talk.
That's how I got the information on Hitler's bunker. I didn't force him to talk to me, he just talked. One of the officers had just returned from Berlin, and he was an engineering officer, and he explained the bunker where Hitler was located, how I constructed it with the walls so and so thick, and the location of it. And I sent that in.
Headquarters assigns Fred a side mission. With their advanced engineering, new German Messerschmitt jets could dominate the skies. The question is, can they produce enough machines?
This is a James Bond movie with a secret hideout buried underground in the side of a mountain. It's a Messerschmitt factory creating German jets, 262s. They have these massive metal steel doors. Somehow, Fred Mayer has to infiltrate this top secret facility. He comes up with this perfect plan. He finds out what they need, which is they need skilled labor. So he works through his contacts and gets the proper papers to be Friedrich Mayer, this French electrician.
That wasn't hard. I changed clothes, and I pronounced my name a little different, but that's it. Instead of Friedrich Mayer, I became Friedrich Mayer. Very simple.
Fred infiltrates the factory and reports production has ground to a halt. The Allies have managed to cut off the supply route. By now, Fred has established an extensive network of informants and contacts. His ambitions grow larger. He wants to organize and arm the local partisans to take Innsbruck from Hofer and the Nazis.
I figured, well, not. I had some free time and I could put it to good use.
He wanted to take Tyrol, He wanted to establish some sort of a resistance army. Had grand ideas of liberating Tyrol. No, I was just intelligence sending things. And he wanted to run an army. Yeah, actually, he should have been a general.
Headquarters turned him down, basically said, your job is not to start at a third front or something like that. Your job is to gather intelligence.
While Fred works his contacts in Innsbruck, Franz stays hidden in Oberperfus. He becomes increasingly anxious for the safety of his sisters, who are active accomplices in his mission. His main source of support during this time is his fiancée, Annie.
der wird uns da besiegen.
Ach, das ist so schön, dass wir noch einmal treffen.
Ja.
Jetzt fehlt uns bloß der Franz.
Ja.
Manchmal kommt es mir vor, als ob das gestern gewesen wäre. Der Hans hat ja kommen wollen, aber
Krank sei er.
er hat Herzfehler gehabt. Da
Nein.
haben sie im Krankenhaus, jetzt darf er nicht mehr fliegen.
Ja, schaut.
Mama, erzähl mal, wann du den Fred das erste Mal gesehen hast.
Wann war denn das? Jedenfalls habe ich halt einmal geschimpft, dass der Franz
Hast du?
abgesprungen ist.
Dass der gekommen ist?
Ja.
Ja.
Ja, den hätten sie auf der Stelle erschossen, wenn sie ihn
Ja, ja,
erwischt hätten, nicht?
ja klar.
Und was meinst du? Er war ja verliebt.
Ja, da hast du aber nicht angeschimpft.
Nein,
Nein.
habe ich nicht geschimpft, aber halt.
My father died 10 years ago, and when he died, she was very sad. When we were children, my father didn't talk about the Greenup mission. And I think he was a brave man. He didn't fear doing this. It was dangerous.
Das erste Ziel war eben die Bahnlinie
Zum Brenner.
zum Brenner. I went down to the rail yards and kind of looked around, and the yardmaster started talking to me. I was in German uniform, so he didn't suspect anything. I asked him, what are all those trains doing here? And he said, "Well, these 26 trains here are going to go out in 2 days." So I sent that message, and that's how we destroyed 26 trains. Complete with ammunition and new armor, slated for the Italian front.
April 20, 1945. As the war is coming to an end, the Allies are streaming through Germany in the west, while the Soviets are on the outskirts of Berlin. The Reich is collapsing. But in Innsbruck, the Nazis, under Hofer's command, are holding out. The Gestapo execute last-minute security sweeps. Fred, using the cover of a French laborer, is now living with Franz's sisters, Gretel and Eva.
Eva went to the door. I knew something was wrong. There was no escape. There was no second door. She kept them at the door long enough for me to throw all the papers in a fire. So she came with submachine guns, 6 men.
Hände hoch! Langsam umdrehen!
You don't argue with 6 submachine guns.
Eva gets word to Louisa, who makes her way to Oberperfus, where she finds Franz and warns him that Fred has been captured.
Franz came to me and said, "We better get out. Freddy has been caught." And he knew, of course, that neighborhood thoroughly. It was middle of the night, as far as I recall. We tramped through the woods that night till about 3 or 4 in the morning. And then we sheltered at a friend of his, a farmer, in a large farmhouse, and he put us in a hayloft.
In Innsbruck, Fred is taken to the Gestapo prison. His interrogation begins.
First, they started hitting me in the face. Where's your radio operator? I had a cyanide pill which I tried to bite on, but it fell out when they hit me. So I couldn't kill myself. So they kept beating me more and more. They stuck a pistol in my mouth, gave me a haymaker. He knocked out all my back teeth. And I spit my teeth. And I spit blood. And I still didn't know what they were talking about.
That night, Mom Anita Kirscher organizes a prayer vigil for Fred's safety.
This is an extraordinary moment in the mission itself, a sense of humanity that's unparalleled, where you have this village that's arguably very pro-Nazi, they're Catholics, and then they're praying for a Jew. And they're effectively collaborators. They're all collectively collaborators in that church that night.
Back inside the prison, Fred is subjected to merciless torture, led by Gestapo head Walter Guttner.
He was a little rat. I could have killed him with one hand if I was free. But he was determined to break me. He just kept trying to get me to talk. As long as I don't break, they'll keep me alive. And I'm not going to break because I'm not going to give anybody away. One of them said, maybe it's a Jew. But the other said, nah, Jew couldn't take it like that. They stripped me and hung me upside down with a rifle barrel between my legs and raised me between two desks. And they beat me. Getting whipped. Getting bloodier and bloodier. Also kept saying, where's your radio operator? Over and over, I would give him the same answer. Je sais pas. I don't know.
A high-ranking Nazi party official, Dr. Prims, has been silently observing Fred's torture. At the critical point, he steps in.
Dr. Prims saved my life, there's no question about it. Until Guttner cut me down because I'm unconscious. He knew I wasn't, but that's what he told him. It was his own view, I think, that I could be useful. And they put me in a prison cell.
Fred is held in the cell for several days. During that time, another prisoner, suspected of being a resistance fighter, is tortured to death by Guttner.
Finally, Dr. Prims came into the room. He told me, get cleaned up, and we're going to take a little ride. It was a very impressive house, like a mansion. There were assembled about 6 men with food in front of them and drinks, all kinds of delicacies. It looked good.
Willkommen!
I heard a voice. Have some food and relax. Nothing is going to happen here. It was Hofer. Hofer's wife greeted me, a beautiful woman. Blonde, perfect picture of a Nazi woman.
I mean, I can just about imagine. Here was Fred. He must have looked like a real mess. Hofer, of course, had hoped that he would be the big shot in the Alpine Redoubt. Well, by that time, he could see that there wasn't much of a chance. And so he decided that he might as well use Fred.
Fred takes this opportunity to offer Hofer a way out.
I told him, you surrender to our troops and we'll treat you as prisoners of war. I had no right to do that, but I thought that was a good deal. That way he would stay alive. I suggested that he declare Innsbruck an open city. He kind of hemmed and hawed, well, you know, it's my duty. But it started Hofer thinking.
Fred learns that Hofer has had a change of heart. Instead of surrendering, Hofer wants to fight to the bitter end. As governor of Tyrol, he is about to deliver a call to arms.
The radio hookup was up there. I told him again, before he went on the air, to do the right thing for the people and declare Innsbruck an open city, which he did then.
Fred, once beaten and imprisoned by the Nazis, now puts Hofer under arrest.
It's very reminiscent of the scene in Inglorious Basterds. Franz Hofer wanted immunity from war crimes. Fred Mayer had no authority to grant that immunity, but in one of the great bluffs of the war, said that he would protect Hofer in exchange for surrendering Innsbruck.
I drove through the lines. I met the first American officer. I said, Major West, I'm Fred Mayer of the OSS. I want you to accept the surrender of Tyrol. That's what happened.
The Americans march into Innsbruck, now an open city.
Du hast die Übergabe von Innsbruck.
Ja.
Keinen Schuss mehr.
Kein Schuss. Kein Blut vergossen.
Schön, ja.
Ja.
Operation Greenup success saved untold lives, shortened the war on the Italian front, and spared historic Innsbruck from being destroyed.
Perhaps I can say I'm a little bit proud of my father, of course. And I think my father can be an example for me. I often think, what would I do if I would live in such a time? I can't really say. I hope I would do right.
Hello. Yes, Freddie, where are you? I'm supposed to see your picture, but I don't see it yet.
I don't see you yet either. But at least I recognize your voice.
Yeah, I see you.
You do?
Yeah, I can see the top part of your face. Can you see me?
Yeah, now I see you.
you too. You have all your hair still. I do too. Look, all my hair. So how are you yourself? You're very well?
I have no complaints. I wish you were feeling as well as I was.
Yeah, well, I've been out of the hospital now for a week and I feel better today than any other time. So I'm in good shape.
Oh, that's very nice.
Well, now they will give me a medal.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll pin it on my pajamas.
At least.
I consider the whole thing just a lucky break. And I consider that is sort of an image of my life. I think, even though my parents were killed by the Nazis, I still think I've been a very lucky fellow. All the other guys were fighting, and I was sitting in a comfortable room. Very little bravery on our part, except for Fred. And for Franz. Franz, of course, was immediately in danger because he was a deserter.
We all wonder how we would react to torture. It's one of the things that one thinks about if we take prisoner or anything like this. In the case of Fred, we know how he reacted.
Grünaup was picked up by the CIC, and he was in prison there. They asked me if I wanted to see him. Of course I did. I wanted to beat him up. I went there, and there he was in a corner, and he started saying to me, "Look, please do anything you want with me, but please don't hurt my family." I tell him, "What do you think, we are Nazis?" I walked out.
Now I find you looking well and healthy. Stay that way for another 10 years at least, okay?
Well, I don't want to hang around that long, but... Well, you take care, Hans.
Same to you, Fred. Fine to be in contact
And above
again.
all, get healthy.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Vermoeiend hoor.
What wonderful gadgets I have nowadays, huh? He looks terrific. A little bit older, but still the same boyish face. I did my job, but it was my war. I hated the Nazis and I loved America. It was as simple as that. My war. It was a good feeling that we won. We beat them. And the fact that Hans was where I could find him, and Franz was where I could find him. It was a good feeling. Happy ending.